Hello to all and welcome back to War Thunder Aviation. Now for today I'm going to talk about something that's a fairly recent addition to War Thunder, and if you ask me, one of the worst additions to the game, as it has ruined my experience and many other people's experience of this game. Now, I'm not saying this game is unplayable or I'm not going to play it anymore because of it. It is still playable and it is still fun to play, but unfortunately, due to this new addition, it means that most ground attack aircraft in the game are now completely pointless and irrelevant to the overall outcome of the match. So what am I talking about here? Well, if you've been playing the game for the last few weeks or so, you'll probably notice that after the game has gone on for a rather long amount of time, be it maybe 15-20 minutes normally on average, you'll find that the game suddenly will have new targets appear on the map. And these targets will always be weakly armoured trucks that any aircraft in the game can fly over and strafe or bomb or do whatever the hell they want to, basically. Now, although I have no evidence as to why exactly this was implemented, I am more than certain that the reason is to prevent people from taking the lead on ground targets and then flying off into orbit until their team wins on ground targets. Now, let me just start off by saying that I am more than ecstatic to hear that Ganjin are actually trying to listen to their fans and are actually trying to improve their game. And that really does give me hope that the company who famously doesn't listen to anything their fans say is actually doing something for once to try and improve their game. However, by adding this, they have actually ruined their game, or at least made it worse. They've solved one problem, it's true, but by doing so, they have made many more problems that I will now address in this video. So problem number the first one is something I've already said in my Yak Attack video. I already did touch on this topic in that video, and if you would like to see that, then go to the end of said Yak Attack video. I will have its link in the description for this video, just in case you want to have a cheeky gander. And you will see that when I talk about it, I say that I really don't like this new system, because one of the things it does is ruin perfectly good dogfights and games. And this is indeed completely true. The amount of times I have been playing this game and me and my team have been flying around dogfighting, having loads of fun, and then suddenly the game just abruptly ends while we're in the middle of having loads of fun dogfighting because some guy noticed the new target spawn in, flew over and took them all out. And keep in mind that we weren't trying to hide or anything, or try to be dicks and fly off to orbit. We were literally trying to engage them, and yet despite this, either our team or their team will fly over to these new targets and just destroy them all and win the game. Not to mention that although they have solved the problem of having people fly off into orbit, they've actually made another problem of equal annoyance, which is people either baiting the last of the enemy team around, so then the rest of their team can fly over and shoot all the ground targets, or having people flying around where the ground targets spawn, if they're the last man or something like that, and wait for them to spawn in, and then immediately go for them all and win the game. But that's only a fairly trivial problem in comparison to the other things I'm going to bring up. You see, that's an annoying thing when people do that, and it really sucks, but you know, players will be players, there's not much you can do about it. But what really annoys me, what really gets on my nerves about this, is the fact that now, any aircraft in the game can shoot at ground targets and do massive damage to the enemy's tickets and win on ground forces, even if they don't deserve it. And what I'm talking about is the fact that now, all you have to do is just wait around as a fighter until these new targets spawn in, shoot them all, and you'll win. That's the game now. bombers are completely irrelevant, because unless you have an entire squadron of bombers that are all specifically going for unique targets and are all, well trained on exactly what they need to do to win the game as quickly as possible, by the time they've done any kind of considerable damage to the enemy's tickets, all that's going to happen is that the new targets will appear after 15-20 minutes, which is probably about enough time for your standard heavy bomber to fly over to a target, bomb it, get back to base, and then get back into the air. That can take up to 15-20 minutes, I found. And why would you choose a bomber? Why would you wait that long when you can be a fighter that has all the perks of being a fighter? But not only that, also, you can literally just fly over to these new targets that spawn in, shoot them all, and you win. You'll win on ground forces. So the question is, why have a liability of being a slow bomber? Why have the liability of being a ground attack aircraft that has nowhere near as good enough armament or maneuverability as other aircraft? Because the simple fact is, other than actual grinding and just grinding to get new aircraft and stuff like that, there is no point. I mean, ground attack aircraft and bombers in the game have always had a lack of use, which I've always found fairly depressing, considering that I am a bomber pilot on these games. I fly bombers probably more than I fly fighters, to be honest with you, because I love flying bombers so much on this game. I don't know why, I just really do. And I also like ground attack aircraft as well. And now to see them have even less value than what they used to have, which was like nothing, that really, really makes me sad, because it just asks the question of what's even the point in flying bombers anymore. And as far as changing the game and making your team win or helping your team in any respect, there isn't one anymore. You're basically just a liability to the team. You're no longer an asset. And I'm already seeing the side effects of this happening, because when I fly bombers and ground attack aircraft, I've seen that people are more willing to just fly off into the sky. They don't care about me anymore. They'll just fly off. They don't think twice about trying to escort me anymore. And you know what? Who can blame them? Because they're perfectly right to think that. In fact, that's the way I think now. Whenever I see bombers and ground attack aircraft, I don't think, hey, if I defend that guy, he might just change the difference of the outcome of this game, and he's actually a really strong asset to the team, and with his help, he could turn the tides of battle and bring back a defeat if there is going to be one. What I now think is, oh good, another slot on our team has been wasted by someone flying a bomber, when it could have been in something like a fighter, which are basically the only aircraft anymore that have any significant value to the outcome of matches. And just to make this completely clear with everyone, whether you've flown a bomber or not, the main purpose of a bomber in this game is to attack ground targets and take away the opponent's tickets. That is their one and pretty much only role, unless you want to also include if you manage to take out all bases and then take out their runway, but since that almost never happens, it's basically not even really part of what a bomber does. So 99% of the time, bombers will just hit ground targets, and they will just chip away at the tickets, and by doing so, they will affect the outcome of the game. What do I mean by this? Well, quite simply, it means that by attacking ground targets, it means that if your team is losing on ground targets, then it forces you to have to go onto the offensive. It forces you to have to attack. Alternatively, if your team is winning on tickets, then you can play more defensively, and you can play back and make your enemy play into your advantages and not theirs. This can, and indeed often has, in my experience, changed entire outcomes of matches. I have played games where, me simply being a bomber, I have been capable of forcing entire teams to play into my team's advantages, despite the fact that we're losing, and despite the fact that they hold every advantage. They still have no option but to go aggressive and go for all-out attacks against us, because they know if they don't, I will simply win the game, be it on the timer, or be it from taking out the rest of the ground targets. And this has literally changed entire matches, bringing sure defeats into sure victories, thanks to enemies having to play overly aggressive. But once again, this doesn't exist anymore, as now players fully well know that there's no point in rushing in and actually trying to make a difference or trying to take out all enemy aircraft before they destroy all the ground units. They know that there's no point anymore, because ground targets will appear that they can just shoot at, and they'll just win the game if they do. So what's the point anymore? But this doesn't just affect bombers, as it also affects fighters and, well, every aircraft in the game really, as it affects the length of matches. Now, a lot of you might say that you like matches being as short as possible, and I can understand that. You know, the faster the game, the quicker you can get into another game, the faster you can grind up to your next aircraft, and I get that. You know, I understand that. But a lot of maps in this game have vital aspects of said maps that take time to work, like the map Krymask, or Kurmusk, or Krmursk, or whatever it's pronounced, is a map where if the allies on said map, if you're fighting the Russians, will start with only one runway, and the Russians will start with 3. However, as time goes on, if you wait long enough and you defend your ground forces, after about 20 minutes, the forces will arrive at the first runway and will take it back for you. So then you have one airfield which is further in the map. So this is also, of course, a vital part of the map. It changes how battles are fought, and I think is a really cool thing, having these sort of diverse and unique maps. But the problem is that when these maps take so long, like that map for instance, it takes about 20 minutes for the first captures to take place, by the time the capture's taken place, the new targets have normally already appeared and the game's already over. In fact, in the last maybe 20 games I played on that map alone, I maybe saw the runway get taken maybe 2-3 times out of those 20, because every single time before the game ended before then. And quite a lot of the time it's because of those new targets appearing that people just fly over and shoot. And once again, it just ruins the diverse nature of maps, and it makes them all bland and boring. And don't even get me started on the second runway on that map, because that thing never gets captured anymore. I mean, it used to be fairly rare for it to get captured, because games normally didn't go on for that long, but I have seen it a few times get captured. But let me tell you that after these new target systems were added, I have never seen one get captured. Not once have I seen it captured since. It's just, it ruins the map. It means that that entire aspect of the map, that entire diverse nature of the map, is now pointless. It now achieves nothing. It might as well not even be in the game, because it will never happen. And don't just think it's just Kursk. I mean, think of all the other maps. What about preparation for the landing of Hokkaido? How many times have you seen all 3 positions be taken after the patch? Because after these new targets have been put into the game, I have never seen more than 1 location be taken at any one game. But let's think of more maps. What about the Ruhr? Yeah, the Ruhr is another good map, because I've never seen A get taken after these new targets. Or Korea, I've never seen the main runway get taken in Korea after the patch. Can you just see that there's no point in ground forces anymore? Their only purpose now is just for something for bombers to aim at. They don't even affect gameplay anymore, or at least affect it very little. And for my final point of the night, I will show you this clip right here. As you can see, I just saw a 109 was flying over a base, and I'm flying away from him, trying to get around him and get to those ground targets. Until new targets had appeared, and oh look, they're right next to our runway. So at this point, I have no options. They have more forces than us, they're stronger than us, and if I leave now, they will strafe all those ground targets and they will win. So, I as a strike ground attack aircraft have to now engage a 109 just so that I can continue fighting the match and give my team even the slimmest chance of success. This is what this patch has forced aircraft like mine to do. I am worse than this 109 in almost every way. I believe I'm slightly faster than him, but that's about your lot. In every other way, I can't do basically anything against him. Even if I get direct hits on him, and as I hit something critical with this Vickers P guns, there is very little I can do. So, here I am. I'm engaging this 109 in a turn fight with a ground attack aircraft. I hope Ganjin is happy, because I have no other choice. This is what I'm forced to do. Well, I think I've pretty much made my point for the night, and as you can see, I think I've made it very clear that this game is now it's just rubbish now for all ground attack aircraft. It makes our lives just pointless, and sometimes just a living hell, like in this situation here where I'm having to turn fight 109s. And yeah, so that's my video for today, and I will make this video keep going on. You can keep watching me in this, I believe it's a bearcat, I can't quite tell, I think it's a bearcat. Yeah, and watch me and my ally here go and engage these 109s, and I think it's fair to say we both know we're not going to win, but this guy, full credit to, well, the other survivor on my team. He's amazing. He played outstandingly. You know, he's turn fighting 109s and he's beating them, for God's sake. There's not many people in the world who can do that. And yes, this guy deserved the win on his own, really. He did really, really well. So yeah, I'll let you watch the rest of the match, and you'll soon see that inevitably, well, we were just never going to win this. And hey, maybe if I was allowed to fly off and shoot ground targets, then maybe we could have actually sprung some kind of victory out of this, but sooner or later we'll find out that, well, it doesn't matter how hard we try, we had to stay on the defensive, we had to defend those ground forces, and as long as I was turn fighting enemies, we were always going to lose. So I thank you very much for watching, and until next time, maybe tomorrow if you're lucky, I say thank you very much, and I'll see you then.